Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd Podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There you go, right down there. If you want to be among the first to hear my weekly takes, NFL, college football, more, right there.
I saw a report yesterday that the talks have stalled out, the TV talks for the NBA with Turner and with Disney. What did you make of that?
Well, again, first of all, some of this is anecdotal. So my kids love going to NBA games. I love going to NBA games. I've been to 4 this year. And so I go to more NBA games than any games. I think the product when you're in the arena is fantastic and fun. I hate load management, and I do think that's hurt the league. I think Adam Silver, I don't think David Stern would tolerate it. I think the fines would be levied and I think they were years ago, the late David Stern. So I do think there are some social issues. I think the load management's turned a lot of people off. The game is getting like baseball and hockey. It's very international now. So it's just harder to follow a guy if you don't, he's in Lithuania instead of Duke. The reason I know Zion, he played at Duke. He blew up a shoe at Duke. And so, there's part of it is the society is, we're all distracted now. I mean, our phone, my usage rate, I was on the phone during the NBA. I'm on my phone constantly, right? Like my usage rate goes up 400% during the NBA playoffs. So we're distracted. So we don't follow the path and the journey of players. You do, you're an expert at it, but most people don't. So we like this. I watch a guy at Ohio State for 3 years or Michigan. He's microwavable. He goes to my Texans. I know who he is. I have his jersey. I have an visceral connection with him. In the NBA, increasingly, the guys don't play college. And so it's like, and they go to bad teams at the top of the draft. So you don't see him for 3 years until they get into the playoffs. Wemby, because he's uniquely, historically transcendent, we talked about him. So I think executives look at this and they say to themselves, the players are telling us the regular season doesn't matter. The league, by not handing out punitive action, is telling us the regular season doesn't matter. Am I paying $9 billion for playoff games? I'm not interested. And I think Fox, and I won't speak for Fox or the Murdochs, but I do think people in our company have looked at baseball and they're like, we love the playoffs, but the 162, Braves, Brewers or whatever, it's hard to get people interested. So in a distracted society where we're on our phones, long regular season sports are dying. And so NFL's not, urgency. World Cup's not, every 4 years. Olympics aren't. March Madness men and women aren't. College football isn't. UFC isn't. Baseball, hockey, NBA regular seasons on television are just not dynamic. And these leagues, the NBA, we'll have some great series here. These first round series are going to be really good. Knicks Sixers is going to feel like a big series because Philly and New York they jump off the television. My takeaway is leagues send messages to networks, and the message is the regular season doesn't matter much. And I run Fox or ESPN or TNT. Okay, then let's have 2 packages. I'll pay for the playoffs. I don't want the regular season. And so I think that's where the NFL, and I think March Madness, it's like, I have to watch these games. These are all sudden death. What do I make of it? I make of it the product's good, but the league is sending a message to the networks, and it's come back to bite them in the ass, which is no load management. I've always felt the league should have about 60 games. The first round should be 3 games. The rest of the way should be 5 until the finals is 7. There's no urgency. I mean, there's just literally no urgency in these games. It's like I watch it because I love the NBA. The NBA will get its money, but you have to be honest about this. The stuff that's working is all creating urgency. I mean, the quality of men's basketball in the NCAA now is awful. Jason, it's
the actual quality of play. Yeah.
But the numbers were fantastic. So now women's basketball is much better today than 20 years ago. So the quality there is excellent in Caitlin Clark's story. But I think baseball, hey, have you heard about, Apple doesn't want part of the NBC and Apple are both unhappy with their baseball packages.
Wow.
Sunday Night Baseball, they want 140 million. Nobody wants to pay that. Fox would take it for 40 million. We're not paying 140 million. So I think baseball, hockey, and basketball, I think you have to look in the mirror as owners. You've never been richer. It's the best place in the world to own any investment in the world is English Premier League teams or American sports teams. That's where the richest people have their money. EPL teams only go up, and American sports teams mostly go up. I think you have to scale back the number of games. You have to demand starters play. I think you have to have more urgent. I think what you have in the NBA is you have a 2.5-month playoff. It should be a month and shorten the season. Now you say, the players will say, well, we won't make as much money. If everybody got 10% less, you'd be fine. If LeBron could play 15 less games a year, he'd be fine with less. Most players would be. But I think it's a reality of what's happening. The distraction, the fragmentation. You cannot ask people to sit through these long hockey, baseball, NBA regular seasons, especially when the players don't seem that driven by it. That's my take, and I love the league.
Yeah, you and I had a debate. It was a couple months ago, but we were talking about the difference between the NFL and how the NFL has been encroaching on their territory and what they're doing, like 3 Wednesday Christmas games this year, right?
Yes.
So like in one of the counterpoints I made to you is like, I don't really see the league as the NBA as even on the same footing as the NFL, because I view the NFL as an urgency sport and I view the NBA as an inventory sport.
Yeah.
Well, the NBA has actually leaned more and more into inventory. It's like, here is an in-season tournament. Here is a play-in tournament. They just expanded the first round of the playoffs from 5 to 7 games, like 20 years ago or whatever it was that they did. So like they've done nothing but add inventory. And while total revenue has gone up, I think the focused kind of desire surrounding the NBA regular season is less. And to your point, like I've always been a big believer in shortening the regular season, because I think if you could get it down to 3 games a week and just a guaranteed 2 days off every single week in a row somewhere in there for the older guys, I think you just have better player participation in general, not to mention the increased urgency surrounding the games. And what bothers me about it is, why can't you view the in-season tournament and the play-in tournament as the revenue drivers to make up for lost revenue in a shortened season? And if you did shorten the season, I think you'd see an initial drop in revenue, but I think in the big picture, as there's more star participation and roughly 20% additional urgency by dropping 20% of the games, I think you will see in the big picture an increased value in the regular season package. But I 100% agree with you in the sense that, like, how could you of all the things that the NBA provides between gambling, between highlights, between the playoffs, between the in-season tournament, play-in tournament, Summer League is a huge deal. Every year I go out there, I'm amazed by the event that Summer League is. Wait till you see what this Team USA thing is going to be like in Vegas. Like, all of that is doing great, but the regular season itself is dipping further and further down the food chain, and that they do need to put more attention in that direction. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, it's also the international participation now is up. They're more skilled. They're dominating the MVP. I got no problem with it. I've never seen players as good as Wemby and Jokic, but it is harder to follow. And in a distracted world, it's really hard to follow. And I'm a sportscaster. But I mean, it's like they do jokes on TNT that Shaq and Barkley don't know certain players. Like that gives you a sense of, they're sending messages constantly that half these games don't matter. Well, that's not great messaging.
Hey, Colin, I'm a complete basketball nut job. I coach it on a volunteer level here in town. I play literally 6 days a week. I get bored in the NBA regular season. I do what every other person in the media does and like have to find reasons to be enthusiastic about what we're covering. When you're in January, it's a slog, man. It's literally a slog. And again, I'm a nut job when it comes to this stuff.
I've argued for years that I would start the NBA on the Wednesday after Thanksgiving. So I would start it a month later, because I think you can't compete with football. But after Thanksgiving, people get this heaping helping of football. And you talk about it on Monday on the sports shows and Tuesday. And then Wednesday, because as college football after Thanksgiving slims down, the schedule slims down, you go to conference championships. There's that Wednesday. I've noticed it for years in my business. That Wednesday, you're like, God, wouldn't it be great if tonight was NBA opening night? So you would push it back a month, late August to the Wednesday after Thanksgiving. You'd cut it down to about 66, 68 games. It would end July 1st. So you'd push it back a little longer. There's nothing going on in June and July early. and it would just be a real estate move. Like the NFL moved free agency to March. It was because they wanted to take away some March Madness. They saw opportunities. It would be you're just buying different beach property. You move it back to after that. You have no shot to compete until after Thanksgiving. It's just too much football. But then college football dims a little bit, and the NBA, and then cut the games down. But you have the summer's wide open. I mean, June and early July are wide open. And then July 1st, you crown your champion. You have the draft 4 days later. Thanks for flying United. NFL camps open.
November.
Yeah, NFL camps open 3 days later, and it's perfect. The NFL's been great at this. They just keep buying different real estate, moving out of this. The NFL gives you June and the first week of July. Take it. They give it to you. You're not going to beat them head to head. There we go. All right. Good stuff. Jason Timpf, Hoops Tonight. Sorry, Milwaukee, Indiana fans. Sorry, Pelican fans. We'll talk about you in a later date.
I'll cover him tomorrow. We'll get to him tomorrow.
All right, buddy. Good seeing you. Thanks.